Very good morning to everybody. It's indeed a pleasure to be here in front of you, in front of this August gathering. As the topic suggests, roots and wings. When roots and wings are spoken of independently, they don't really come across as interconnected. When you think of roots, you think of plants. When you think of wings, you think of birds. But actually, when you put both of these together in a very interconnected way, it actually signifies a very essence of journey of life. And it bridges stability and aspiration, tradition and transformation. So what are we talking about? So to me, when we talk about our roots, we're talking about our principles, our values, our core, our foundations, things that keep us grounded, things that help us and serve as a compass when there are things which come into our lives and we want to actually make sure are we doing the right things or not. They give us the stability. Sometimes when you think of roots and you think of groundedness and stability, you may also think that they make us stagnant or fossilize us. But that's not the case. We've got to make sure that we look at wings as ones which actually take birth from the roots and the foundations. For us to be able to fly through with our wings and have a flight of fancy, it is extremely important that we make sure that we focus on our foundations before we go ahead. To me, it has been extremely critical to make sure that there is a harmony between the roots and the wings, as the topic suggests. Let me try and bring this to life by sharing a few examples who, in my mind, have actually built this harmony and achieved great things. And this is not about achievements in business or achievements in any particular area. It's about in whatever you would like to do or whatever one would like to do in life. So the first and foremost that comes to mind is our former president, APJ Abdul Kalam. He was steeped in simplicity and authenticity, but yet managed to inspire millions of people to dream, to innovate, and actually get their wings of fire. Malala Yousafzai, again somebody who's become an icon, but if you really look at it, it was her deep cultural connections with her roots, as well as her early life experiences, which made her a big proponent of equality and education. Oprah Winfrey, again somebody whom we've heard of. But again, I would say, because of her early life experiences, she pretty much revolutionized the talk show that she ran to bring storytelling in an extremely different way and share different perspectives. Mary Kom, I can go on. Again, somebody who, at a time when the sport was a very male-dominated sport, through her perseverance, became a symbol of someone who you could look up to. I can again go on, but maybe just one more. Ratan Tata, who came from a family of entrepreneurs, and even in the 21st century, stayed true to the fact that they want to run the enterprise for the larger purpose of social good and not just profit maximization. So what does this all say? If we can really find the harmony between our roots and wings, wonderful transformations can occur. Let me now try and switch to share a few learnings that have helped me through my 2.5, 3 decades of whatever I've been able to do. The first and foremost, friends, I would say, is that embrace new experiences. We are all a reflection of what our experiences in life have been so far. The way we react to things, the way we respond to things, the way we perceive things of what's right and wrong is all about how we have experienced these things through our life. Goals and aspirations are extremely important, but more important than that, or equally important, is the journey, and that journey to be enriching to actually get to those goals and aspirations. A small life story or my own lesson. About 2.5 decades back, in about 2001, I had the opportunity to be nominated by my firm to actually develop a leadership development program. And this was in the US in Washington, DC. I had just started my career. I was extremely junior in the organization. It was a lot of excitement to go to the US. It's probably the first time I was ever going out. I boarded my flight. I actually landed on a late evening, only to realize that next morning I realized that it was one of the last few flights but actually landed in Washington, DC, because the morning was the morning of 9/11, where the Twin Towers went down. And I can tell you, friends, Life in Washington, D.C., for 6 months after that I was there, was not what it used to be before. But that's just the, the physical or the security aspect. But it was about me going from India to a much more mature market, working with a number of people with very different backgrounds, coming from different market maturities. And to say the least, it was a struggle. The easiest thing for me, and I must say, it many times came to me that, look, why don't I just go back? Because I think I was a reasonably good performer back home, and now I'm just going through, a struggle which is going to be extremely difficult for me to navigate, and maybe I will not be able to do this. But thankfully, I stayed there, took feedback, which wasn't good many a times, but actually worked on it and made sure that I came out of it in a much better way. Today, when I look back, as I said, about 2.5 decades back, that was probably one of the most transformative experiences that I have had through my journey. The next I would say is just making sure that we stick to our principles and values. And again, what do I mean by that? That's really, our beliefs, our conviction, our knowledge, things that have been passed down through generations. And I'm not just talking about moral principles and values. I think it's extremely important for each one of us to be authentic and objective in whatever we do, whether it's dealing with your friends, whether it's working in an organization, or whatever you do. Because then and only then, people will respect you as an individual. Many people respect each other because of the titles and positions they hold. But those titles and positions are all transitory. You have it today, you will not have it tomorrow. But if you can actually strike that balance where people look up to you as an individual, and I do think that if you're authentic, if you're objective, and there to help others, people really look at you as opposed to the title or position that you hold. Again, life learnings, a few examples. Through everyone's, whether it's studies, whether it's work, whether it's just interaction with your friends and extended family, there will be times where things will not go right. And there will be pressure to conform. There will be pressure to say yes, there will be pressure to just go down the traditional path. It could be about profit maximization. It could just also be about fear of what people will think about you. What will my colleagues think about me? What will my organization think about me? Will I be seen as a failure? But I would say that if you actually stick to your core principles and values, your beliefs, maybe the immediate outcomes that come out are not going to be the easiest and may lead to be a little bit of difficulty. But I can assure you that over a period of time, you will look back and feel much better about what you did basis that. The next, I'd like to talk about people and relationships. Friends, I truly believe that we are only as good as our team. The world today is not about individual brilliance. It has to be about team excellence. A lot of us here in India, like cricket and watch cricket. To win a match or to win the World Cup, we can't have 10 Virat Kohlis or 10 Jasprit Bumrahs in the team. We need to make sure that we have a Virat Kohli, we had a Bumrah, you probably need a Jadeja, or you need somebody else which is apt for the pitch in play, or depending on who the opponent is. I would actually really, think of this in a couple of ways. You have your family and your close friends. They are like your rocks or foundations, and they will be with you through thick and thin. The next, I think each one of us need to look out for a coach or guide or mentor, whether you're in university, could be a professor, could be somebody whom you look up to, who would actually show you the mirror and tell you where you're going wrong. Act as a sounding board at a time when you actually need to consult and look at what you're doing or what you're not doing. And also expand your circle of relationships. Through my career, I have actually had the opportunity to work with a number of people across different geographies. Again, coming from very different backgrounds. Many a times when you speak to those people, and I interact with those people, their way of thinking as opposed to mine, or their experience were very, very different. But with each of those conversations and each of those connections, I actually took away something which actually has influenced me as we go ahead. Agility and adaptation. As they say, change is the only constant. And if change is the only constant, then we do not have a choice but to morph ourselves into the changes that come through. To give you an example of technology, when they talked about a generational change in technology, it was meant to be almost 10 to 20 years. But today, with what's happening with technology, a change in generation is probably 12 to 18 months. How would you actually adapt to that change? there are two ways to reacting to it. One is to say that, look, I'm not going to be going with that change, but then you're going to be left out. Right? The other way is to make sure that you're actually adapting and again moving with what is required. And of course, that needs, no change is easy. It needs a lot of effort to make sure that you're up to speed with it, you're putting in the effort, etc. Again, a small example. After almost 25 years of having done work in a particular field, I actually had the opportunity to move out into something which was totally different. It required a 360-degree change from what I was doing before. Again, one reaction could have been to, why do I need to do that? I'm very happy doing what I'm doing. But if I did not do that, I would probably not see things which today I'm able to see and actually, even contribute to it. But what helped me in that is the experiences that I had through the journey, the connections and the people and the friendships that I had made, as well as, some of the interactions that I've had in the past. I would actually then come back to what I believe is the most important: self-belief and confidence. Friends, nobody will take anyone seriously unless we take ourselves seriously. So we've got to believe in ourselves. And self-belief and confidence comes through a variety of things. It comes through the experiences that we've had. It comes through, having the will to actually do whatever it takes to get what we want to get. And again, when I say get what we want to get, I don't mean to say this in a way in a particular angle or in terms of business or otherwise. It just could be in your pursuit of happiness or pursuit of life, what you would like to do. So unless and until we are able to, focus on this, it's going to be very difficult. The example that was once given to me, and I think it resonated a lot and I'd like to share, was, two curves. So think of life in a way where on the horizontal axis you have time and the vertical axis is whatever you want to get to, right? And it could be in terms of what you're doing for business or in life or pleasure or otherwise. Many a times it is very easy for us to get frustrated if we don't get immediate results or immediate gratification, right? And you see somebody else and you say, oh, the other person is getting it or doing it, and why am I not? And you lose confidence. But I would say there are two graphs in life. You can go exponentially straight off, but if you go that way, the horizontal line is time or life, there will be stagnation at a point in time, and then that curve becomes parallel to the horizontal axis. You would rather be on a curve which actually evolves gradually, and then it gets into a curve of evolution, and that keeps you going beyond. And that again will happen if you're grounded to your roots, making sure that you're true to your principles, your cores, your values, bringing in your experiences to put together. So hopefully, what I have tried to put out resonates, or at least some parts of those resonate with you. I did find that just putting these two together brought a good harmony between what one would call your foundations or your roots and the aspirations. I would actually like to wrap this up by saying that you, as students, are the future of India. You are the future of an India which is aspirational. You are the future of an India which is decisive. You are the future of an India which is not only capable of leading itself, but also showing many parts of the world what sustainable growth and good things are all about. With macroeconomic indicators for our country better than ever before, access to education in institutions like these, innovation, R&D, and relatively ease of access to funds if you have a good idea and you have the will to actually go after, not the skill necessarily, but the will to make something happen. I would urge each one of you to actually dare to dare. Because if you can dare to dare today, you will realize your full potential. And in that case, the sky is not the limit. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be with you.